you doing any of this cross-examination stuff with any of these candidates. This is a friendly gathering here. You're just moderating, trying to ask a couple questions and move things along. And I will note that, and I think we had a third candidate, Mr. Barks, to show up. Each candidate is running for a separate office. So what I'd like to do is just to open it up to the candidates. I don't have a bio for any of these. I'm going to ask each of the candidates to give you their own bio and an opening statement, at which point I'll ask some follow-up general questions. And because we have a nice moderate-sized group, if any of you have any questions, Janice will accommodate that by bringing a microphone to you. Now, I'm not really sure about the necessity for it because I learned early in my career, after the third or fourth elderly juror raised their hand and said, "Sonny, could you speak up?" that you can generally project, and it's a pretty small room, but we have microphones, so we'll take advantage of those. Okay, this morning I was introduced to Mr. Cruikshank, and we're going to talk about the pronunciation of his name, so we'll go ahead and start out with you, sir, just doing it alphabetically. And can you give us your brief bio and tell us the office that you're running for and whatever opening statement you care to make?
Thank you so much, Steve, for that. And yeah, that's always the starting thing with me is how to pronounce all those letters. So my name is John Cruikshank, and I'm currently the mayor of the city of Rancho Palos Verdes, and I'm running for Los Angeles County Supervisor for the 4th District. My background essentially is I'm a business owner, a longtime business owner. I'm also a licensed civil engineer in the state of California. I've run my business since 1996 here in Los Angeles County. And I'm also a 3rd generation Los Angeles County resident. I've been married to my wife Jennifer for 30 years, and I have one son, his name is Sean, and he recently graduated right here at Peninsula High School on the Palos Verdes Peninsula. So the reason I'm running is looking back at the pandemic when it started. I was the mayor in 2020, and unfortunately I was one of the first elected officials here in the country to get COVID. And as Republicans, we can appreciate the fact that I actually got COVID at Trump National of all places. And so that was something that helped me make national news, which isn't something you necessarily want to be making national news for getting COVID. But I think what we all realized quickly is that we had our governor of California say that there were essential businesses and non-essential businesses. And that particular phrase really caught me because to me, every single business in the United States is an essential business, regardless of size or what they do, because it provides for families and provides jobs. And so that was the first thing that caught me, that it seems like government has started to veer off of what it should be doing, and that is representing all of us. So then we started to see here in Los Angeles County, we had mask mandates, we had vaccine mandates, we had businesses that were shutting, our schools were being destroyed. And then you started to realize that there were 5 county board of supervisors that were making huge decisions for all of us. They control right now a $47 billion budget and 115,000 employees. Los Angeles County, of course, is the largest by far in the United States. There's 10 million people that live in Los Angeles County, but that number is actually shrinking because the only reason you would ever leave Los Angeles County is because of the politicians. You have 5 people, not one of those 5 people, and then how quickly should I be doing this?
2 minutes.
2 more minutes, okay.
We had a clock, but since we have one less candidate, we're cutting you a little more slack. You know?
Okay. So essentially you have 5 supervisors. None of them have ever signed the front of a paycheck. They don't know what it's like to take risks. So I'm someone that's going to finally give some real diversity, which means diversity of thought. You have 5 people that basically are walking in lockstep all the time and making decisions. The core 4 issues that I always discuss with people are infrastructure, public safety, homelessness, and economic empowerment. Those are the 4 big issues that need to be solved, and that's why I'm running. I'm running against a very big name opponent, Janice Hahn. She has her father's name on every building in Los Angeles, but that does not give her a right to be representing us. We need people to represent all the people of Los Angeles County, not just one party. Thank you.
I I was gonna do it alphabetically, but Mr. Barks just came in, I don't want him to be thrown, so Steve, if you wouldn't mind stepping up, give us your bio and your opening statement.
Good morning. Thank you guys for being here. My name is Steve Williams, and I'm running for Congress against Maxine Waters.
That's an applause.
I am a Los Angeles native, was born and raised in Los Angeles, raised in Harbor City, went to Narbonne High School. Upon graduating Narbonne, I attended USC, majored in business, and since graduating, I first went into the internet business in sales in the early 90s or mid 90s, representing companies like Yahoo, Realtor.com, Stamps.com. So I had the fortunate opportunity to work with some pretty high profile startups. When the .com bomb, as they called it, happened in 2002, I got into commercial real estate and have been a commercial real estate broker ever since. So I'm a small business owner. And since 2020, I've been a community organizer, helping various communities organize around issues that are very important to them. So the reason I am running for office is, like John, just during the pandemic, I was glued to the TV. I was glued to network news. I hadn't watched CNN or Fox News or MSNBC in over 20 years. I had tuned out. But because I was paying attention due to the pandemic, that's when I realized just how partisan that our media had become, and really just how divided that America had become. So through my college years, I made it a point to try to mentor young Black and Hispanic males within the inner city, trying to expose them to the things that I learned from my mentors, from my education, things that they were not exposed to. But after college, having a career, starting a family, I got away from that. So fast forward again back to 2020, I decided, you know, my children are grown, I'm doing well in my own business, I'm going to get back into making a difference in those communities to the young Black and brown. And so I decided the best way I could do that is to get into politics and run for office. Seeing Maxine Waters telling people to get in the Trump administration's face in public, and then seeing what happened to Sarah Huckabee Sanders in a restaurant in Washington, D.C., I said enough is enough, and I said I think that it's time to do something on a national level, not a local level. I needed to make a huge impact, and to have somebody like myself who is a multi-ethnic conservative being able to defeat someone as a firebrand as Maxine Waters and representing communities like Compton and Watts and South Central Los Angeles as a conservative would rock the political world and really command a voice in Washington, D.C. So what we have seen in our campaign is that Maxine is at her most vulnerable point in her career. She's been there for 33 years. She's 85 years old right now. She'll be 86 by the November election. And her community, including Democratic voters, are ready for a change. They're telling me on a regular basis, enough is enough. 33 years is more than enough time to try to make things happen, and she hasn't. So therefore, our campaign is really gaining momentum, and all we need to do now is to get our message out there further to the voters and get the help from volunteers and supporters like yourself.
All right, George Barks, who's joined us now, is running for 66th Assembly District. Sorry, Mr. Barks, I don't know much about you, but go ahead and give us your bio and your opening statement.
Okay. It's on, right? No? There you go. Can you hear me okay? Okay. I'm usually speaking kind of loud. Hearing might not be all that great, right? I'm George Barks, and I ran for this Assembly District 66 last election cycle, and I did very well. And I want to thank Jessica Pace, who's my social media lady here, for the work that she did. And I came within striking distance of defeating Al Muratschi this time around. And I know with your help, we can do it. A little bit about myself. I was going to time your timing, right? A little bit about myself. I'm a former mayor and councilman from the city of Hermosa Beach, and I have been Man of the Year, Hermosa Beach Chamber of Commerce, president of the Hermosa Beach Sister City Association, currently vice president and student exchange program director. I'm a small business owner and currently have a small business. So I have a lot of experience in government and a lot of experience in business. And I know I can do a better job than Mr. Muratschi. And I'm qualified, and we need to create a balance in Sacramento. We need a change in the direction that the state is going in. And I'm the candidate that can make that change. And we need new approaches and ideas to make these changes. We're all facing significant issues in our district and in the state of California. Crime, homelessness, inflation, high gas prices at the pump, high utility costs. And small businesses need a lot of help because a lot of them post-COVID have closed. And I know in your neighborhood you've seen that and on the news as well. And we need to increase parental rights for education. And we need to lower taxes, and I think I'm capable of doing it by creating coalitions. My history with the Hermosa Beach City Council is to bring people together and work on solutions and make compromises to make this happen. So we need to lower taxes and not increase them. And with your help, we can do it. And in my closing statement, I will talk more about details and take your questions. Did I go over 2 minutes?
You were perfect, thank you.
Perfect.
What I'd like to do is, I'm going to ask each of the individual candidates a few questions, generic and similar areas, and allow them to respond. Once we've gotten some answers from those, we'll throw it up to the audience for any areas that you may be interested in that I haven't hit. And since Mr. Barks is on a roll, I'm going to go ahead and start with him. And I want to apologize. I know that in this era, we have a tendency to be informal and refer to everyone by their first names. My training is in a courtroom and I say Mr. or Mrs. whatever. I'll try to call you by your first names if you prefer that, but that's not natural for me to do. So, Mr. Parks,
Okay.
with regard to you, I want to tell you, I lived in Hermosa for 25 years, and I used to get the mailings from Al Muratschi, and every time I wrote back and suggested that he resign, he ignored me. I don't know why. I couldn't get through to him. Now, I know we talk in generalities here, but what are your specific legislative priorities in terms of what you seek to accomplish when you're elected?
Okay. What I want to do is lower the cost of gasoline at the pump for you. And that is to waive the gas tax, the California gas tax for 1 year. Now, it was attempted in the past to do this, and it failed, but look, we can't give up. And I think I can bring a coalition together to make that happen. Now, with regards to helping small businesses, we need to reduce regulations. We have far too many regulations on business. And what we got from the state of California now is to take a local control away from, cities, where, and it's really pro-developers, where they can come into a city and put high-rise in, put a lot more density than the current zoning allows, and the cities cannot, they have to go along with it. They cannot deny it. So that's an issue there. Well, you know all about parental rights. And, you know, we raise our children, and we have the responsibility, not government, to make decisions. So we need to change the current law and allow for parents to be notified, okay? High utility costs, well, that's hard. You know, so these are not easy issues, but bringing people together, sitting down and listening, we can make changes. Now, in the back on the table, you're going to see one of my flyers and my platform on the back, and also just would like to remind those, see, I have just as many Democratic friends as Republican friends and independents. We did a little research, former colleague of mine on the Manhattan Beach City Council, and we have that handout back there, where in November of 2020, we voted on propositions. And this will show you the position the Democrats took, the position the Republicans took, and how the voters voted in our district. Well, guess what? Our district voted the Republican position on these issues. So, and you know, there are a lot more issues. But I think...
I'm not holding you strictly to, but I think we're beyond it a little bit.
Okay.
But thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Steve, I want you to kind of follow up on where George has been just there, particularly with regard to an issue that a lot of the folks that I spoke to before were concerned with, which is parental rights, children being propagandized in schools, and what you could do were you to attain a position in Congress. But before I ask you that, I just want to thank you for running against Maxine Waters.
You're welcome.
I know this is about you and what you have to say, and certainly not me, but I told Steve I had one of the more humiliating experiences of my life in 2016. I'm running unsuccessfully for Superior Court, and I had to sit across the table from Maxine Waters for 30, 40 minutes, seeking, not exactly an endorsement, but her to allow me to buy her slate mailer and try to convince her I was a moderate guy.
To make her daughter more money.
And it was absolutely miserable. So I hope I never have to suffer through that sort of thing again, and I hope she's consigned to the dustbin of history. Please help us along that.
That is what we are going to do in 2024. So to answer your initial question, regardless of parental rights, that is one of my top 3 issues that falls under economy, security, and liberty. And so under liberty, parental rights is very important to me. We definitely need to protect children from over-sexualization and mutilation. We need to protect a parent's right to be notified, a parent's right in the choice of their to have a say in their child's education. And most importantly for me as a father of 3 daughters, we need to protect women and girls' safe spaces. In the bathroom, in the dressing room, in the locker room, and on the playing field. So one of my top priorities once I defeat Maxine and get into Congress is to fight and advocate for the Protection of Women and Girls' Rights Act. If you notice, every Democrat voted against that act. And I feel that that is one of the primary issues in the 43rd District. I get a lot of feedback from the campaigning that I'm doing in especially the urban areas, Compton, Watts, South Los Angeles. And it's primarily African American and Latino fathers between the ages of 32 to 45 who are saying, listen, enough is enough when it comes to this parents' rights thing. I don't want my girls playing soccer against boys. I don't want my girls sharing a bathroom with boys. I don't want the state to be able to take custody of my child. So that's very important to the constituency, and it's one of the main issues that I'm running on. And as George mentioned, when it comes to the economy, I am definitely going to fight for energy independence. If we can get back to energy independence, not only do our gas prices go down, but our electricity prices go down, and the cost to deliver goods and services will go down. And so fighting for energy independence is important to me, as well as reducing taxes across the board, from income taxes to sales taxes to property taxes, everything that in California, we are the highest tax state in all categories. So we need to reduce that to spur economic growth and to leave the people with more money in their pocket. And then another central issue under security is I am definitely going to fight to secure not just the southern border, but to secure the northern border as well. Because coming through Canada, we have a lot of issues that go unchecked, and we don't need another 9/11 attack. We don't need further illegal immigration from 50 countries around the world. And then under that of security, public safety is another huge issue in my district. In speaking to mothers, they don't let their children go outside and play, which is a shame. I grew up being able to play in the street, walk to school with my friends. These parents can't even let their children walk to school. They literally have to pick them up, drop them off, and once they get home, they're locked inside. And so I feel that it's very important that we address the public safety issue. We need to vote in people like John Cruikshank, who will move to remove people like George Gascon if we can't defeat him in the DA's race. And we have some other people that are running for county supervisor in other districts, and if we can get the county supervisors in there that hold our values, we can do what I will put pressure on attorneys generals and DAs, which is prosecute criminals. Whatever crime you commit, you need to be prosecuted for that crime. And lastly, we need to support our local law enforcement. I was speaking to former LAPD officer the other day. She's worked 30 years South Los Angeles, and she did a brief stint at the police academy, and she was explaining to me how the morale throughout the department is just the lowest she's ever seen. And it's unfortunate because they're having trouble recruiting police officers in general, because who would want to be a police officer with the state of society and the way that they are demonized. So those are my key issues that I'm running on, and you'll notice that my opponent, Maxine Waters, is against all of those. She wants to further raise your taxes. She wants to support the fossil fuel ban, and she, as you know, demonizes the police and does not support law enforcement. So the people have realized that these policies aren't working and that they are destroying the communities they live in, and they are ready for a change, and I'm going to give it to them.
Thanks, Reed. John, I wanted to bring you in on this and kind of focus you on a couple of things here. I think the original area we were talking about concerned parental rights, which I'd like you to address, but Steve raised an issue that I'd like you to hit on, since I think in the Board of Supervisors you'll have perhaps a direct effect on it. Being in the DA's office for forever, as I have been, I've seen a change in law enforcement over the years. And now we're coming up against a phenomena that the cops refer to as drive-by police. You know, don't go anywhere unless you have to. Don't get out of your car unless you have to. Wait until the body is dead and then walk over to it with a bunch of other. Don't get involved because you're only going to get in trouble, you're going to get criticized, you're going to get sued, whatever. If you get on the Board of Supervisors, how do you see this issue, and can you do anything about it?
Thank you, Steve. That's a great question. First of all, thanks to everyone being out here early on a Saturday morning. That takes a lot of commitment, and it shows that you all care about your community and about America, which is great. And then you can see with both these candidates here, and I get to meet a lot of great candidates on the campaign trail. They're running for different offices than I am, but there's a lot of issues that are so symbiotic where we could work together. And I think that's where it's fallen apart, is that we've had some, from this local level, state level, and federal level that is tearing us apart. And so an issue that I was just asked about is where something really affects all of us, and that's public safety. Right now, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, just a few months ago, they were 1,000 officers short. Now they're 1,200 officers short, and the numbers are going in the wrong direction. And the reason they're going in the wrong direction is because not only are they being wooed away by other police departments with larger salaries and signing bonuses, but it's more important than that. The people that they work for, which are the Board of Supervisors, don't have their back. They wanted to defund the police, unfortunately, and this all happened over the last few years. And so the numbers of our county sheriffs are going down. So the one thing, the most important thing that the Board of Supervisors can do is to support our police. That's number one. And then we need to give them the resources and tools to do their job. And when they're out arresting people, they want to make sure that those criminals get locked up. But what's happening is we have a district attorney now that is so soft on crime. He's pro-criminal and anti-victim. And that's bizarro world for me. When people ask me who I support for district attorney, I say anyone but George Gascon, because we can't have anything worse than what we currently have. So as a county supervisor, one thing that you never really see, but we really need, is working with our state and federal elected officials, much more so, and not just to work with them, but also work with our local officials. There's 88 cities in Los Angeles County. 32 of those cities are in the 4th district. So I have one of the most city-rich districts of all LA County. It's everything along the Orange County border, from Whittier all the way down to Long Beach, over to our peninsula here, and then up to the city of Torrance. And the diversity within all those cities is absolutely amazing. And so it's inherent that our county supervisors fight for each of those cities to be able to thrive and do the things they want. I do want to just say, in regards to policies, I think the number one thing that's hurting all of us is inflation. I think inflation is what causes things like homelessness. Every time the price goes up, people that are just trying to play by the rules, all the low-income people, they're the ones that get hurt the most by all of that. Some of the actions that the Board of Supervisors have taken just amaze me. So of course they were immediately anti-fracking when that became a huge issue with the Democratic Party. Then they said we're going to be against oil drilling, so they banned drilling. So what do we think that banning oil drilling does in Los Angeles County? That takes all the refiners and people that are drilling and saying, well, they don't believe in us, so we're going to get out of here. So they're not investing anything in LA County, so now what we see is gas prices that are $4 and $5 a gallon. That's a regressive tax that's destroying us right now. So when we think about homelessness, you think about my opponent, when she ran 8 years ago, homelessness was probably about 15,000 people on our streets. And that was a huge problem then. And she said, I'm going to address homelessness. Well, please ask yourself what Janice Hahn has actually done over the last 8 years. Seriously think about anything that she's done to help any of you. She's made our lives so much worse. And people are going to go to the ballot, and they're going to just vote for her because her name is known. I beg of you to start letting people know that there's alternate candidates on the ballot. Yes, there's a gentleman named Alex Villanueva on the ballot, and he was a pretty decent sheriff at the end of his term, but he's not a Republican, he's a Democrat, open border Democrat. That doesn't work for me either. And I don't believe that someone with his background could be a good supervisor either. The Board of Supervisors is a critical position. You need 5 people, and I don't care about party at this point, you need 5 qualified people that are willing to do the job in a nonpartisan way and solve our nonpartisan issues. That's critical at this point. We're going in the wrong direction, LA County. Thank you.
Don, since you opened up an area that I had actually planned on asking you about later, I'm going to go ahead and focus that with you again and start back across. You raised the issue of homelessness, and we often hear Republicans and conservatives talk about many issues, particularly that, and use the phrase, Democrats just want to throw money at the problem. My argument would be that we have helped create and enable homelessness by the policies that we use. How do you look at that, and what can LA County do to actually make a difference?
So there's a lot of things LA County can do. Homelessness is not a one solution. We all know that. We know that it's a very complicated issue. If it was an easy issue, the Democrats could fix it, but it's not an easy issue. So here's a few ideas that we need to bring back. And I know the LA Times has recently endorsed Janice Hahn, and they said that my ideas were old and tired ideas. Well, here's an old and tired idea. Why don't we take the people that are mentally ill and actually put them in the hospital with conservatorship so they're safe? That works. We hear over and over again that it's Ronald Reagan's fault. Well, I mean, some of the people in this room now aren't even old enough to be alive when Ronald Reagan was president. Ronald Reagan was a great president. That might have been one of his things that he did wrong. But you can't just go back and blame something from the past. If you say that's the mistake, then why don't you re-implement what was before that, which were conservatorships and putting people in hospitals with real doctors. That's the first thing, and that'll take care of a huge number of people that are on the streets. Secondly, housing first California policy does not work. You cannot just give someone a $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 apartment for free, right? And expect absolutely nothing from them.
Right.
What's happening now is we're taking billions of tax dollars that we all work hard for every single day. We all play by the rules, and then we give a house to someone that doesn't want to do a damn thing except take drugs and alcohol. If you're going to be drinking and taking drugs, and you're going to get a home for me or any of you in this audience or anyone that's out there in LA County, they should be getting treatment. The Orange County Rescue Mission has a perfect model for this. First of all, when they bring you in, and it only costs $15,000 per year per person in Orange County Rescue Mission. It's 100% privately funded. You have to stay there for a year and a half. You get retrained, and they have a 98% success rate. You can't come and go every night. I love the Union Rescue Mission. I think that in their hearts they love people and they want to help people. But the flaw is that they allow you to leave every day, anytime you want. And unfortunately, what's out on the streets of downtown Los Angeles is a complete nightmare. You have drug dens, you have criminals. You cannot let people back in and out of that sort of situation. That just does not work. So yes, we can continue what the LA Times wants and try progressive ideas, but they don't work. They just don't, and I don't care what party you're in, they just don't work. We need to have tough love, and if we're not willing to do that, we're not willing to solve the problem, period.
Thank you. Steve, I've been watching your reaction. I suspect that you feel similarly to John, but I want you to be able to articulate your position, particularly from the standpoint of somebody who could potentially be in the federal government.
Sure.
Because this is a problem across the country, particularly in the big blue cities like Los Angeles. So what can be done, and what would you try to do?
So first, well, the homeless issue is a mental health and substance abuse issue. If we address the substance abuse or more so the substance addiction, and we address the mental illness, we'll solve 90% of the problem. And we're not talking about the mother in an abusive relationship who has 3 kids who needs to leave, or the couple that they lost their job, had a medical incident that bankrupted them. That's this much of the issue. I heard Maxine Waters on a town hall a week ago. She said that the #1 cause of the homeless issue is housing affordability. That's not the #1 cause. And to address the housing affordability issue, especially in California, we have to change the permitting process for housing. The way it's set up, being that I've been in commercial real estate for the last 20 plus years, is that the only types of projects that pencil for developers are affluent housing because of the entitlement process that it takes, the land costs, the construction costs because of prevailing wages to the unions, the materials that have gone up significantly, especially with the inflation issue that's been caused especially in California with the reduction of refineries and drilling. And so when you, as a developer, look at what could I build that will actually not lose money, it's high-end housing. Therefore, if all we're building is high-end housing, we don't have, the developers aren't able to build affordable housing. So we've had Democratic policies that have said, hey, let's throw money at the issue, right? Well, I think you've seen the report. California spent $15 billion in the last however many years to address homelessness, and the problem's just gotten worse. So obviously throwing money at the problem isn't working, and in fact, there's I think it's a state senator, state assemblywoman, Jackie Irwin, she has a proposal that's going before the state assembly, I believe, where she wants to allocate $6 billion per year indefinitely that will aim to take 10,000 people off the street. Well, if we've already spent $15 billion and the problem's only gotten worse, why does she think spending an additional $6 billion per year is going to fix the problem? So first, I believe at the federal level, we need to look into things of bringing back conservatorship of mentally ill people. If you give them a place to go and they're not willing to go, which we had the RVs that were bought by, I believe it was the county or the state, that were put out there by Dockweiler Beach, and I believe only 10% of them were used. We have tiny houses, the little tiny homes in Torrance, and I believe they've only been able to place maybe a handful of people into permanent housing. The fact is, they don't want to go. The majority of your people on the street, they want to not have rules, come and go as they please, be able to use drugs and alcohol, and that is what we need to address. So any support I'd be able to give at the federal level to support our state representatives and the county representatives, that's what I'm all for.
All right, thanks. George, I want to rope you into this, but before I do, I want to inject a note from a harsh prosecutor as opposed to the moderate gentleman we have here. And do you suppose in addressing the homeless problem that actually enforcing the law might help? Arresting people for drug possession or drug use or drug sales, trespassing, any of the number of things that we don't do anymore. Would any of those things help?
Absolutely. We have to make crime illegal again. That's what we have to do.
That's right.
And I'm not in favor of this Proposition 1 that's going to be on the ballot for us to vote on, to spend more money on this homeless issue, because as Steve just said, and John, I mean, lots of money has been put forth and it's not working. And so I urge you not to vote for Proposition 1. And but yes, absolutely. We have to remove George Gascon. I mean, this guy, I mean, look at what we're getting from Sacramento. Laws that allow these people to go into a business, steal $950 worth of merchandise, and you can't do anything about it. In law enforcement, if you call them, well, we can't do anything about it. That has to change. We need to change the direction that we're moving in. And, you know, I don't want to pit Republicans against Democrats. I mean, like I said, a lot of my friends are Democrats. But when you go and pick up this and read this, look, in our assembly district and many other districts in the state of California, our Democratic friends agree with our policies and not what, you know, we're getting from the state legislature, from this super majority. And why is this happening? It's been happening for more than 20 years. Maybe we got to look at our branding. Maybe the branding of the Republican Party on a few issues and some of these real radical, you know, Republicans has really hurt us where we no longer have good representation in Sacramento because we don't have a balance there. They have a supermajority. And another reason why I'm running against Mr. Muratschi, because on a lot of these things, he has voted with the supermajority. When he doesn't, because of the supermajority, they don't even need his vote. So, you know, this is why he keeps getting reelected, and why no Republican, unless you're a little crazy like me, will run against him, because they just don't make it. But we're going to turn that around. And we just can't continue moving in this direction and having people leave the state, especially large business people leaving the state because of the high taxes and regulations and all this. I don't know, did I answer the question?
And I wanted to echo something that George said, because each of these candidates that we have here are running against an incumbent, all of whom desperately need to be replaced. I feel more strongly about your opponents.
Yeah, right.
They all definitely need to be replaced. But one of the things that George just brought up, which I was frankly planning on talking to the DA candidates this afternoon, but perhaps I should talk to you folks because you might have a more direct effect on it. Prop 47 was passed by the voters of California, mislabeled and all that, and you hear about it all the time. And it drives me nuts when I hear about it, because they always talk about the $950, and you know, for many years in my career, $400 was the line between petty theft and grand theft. I started in 1987, so I can't say that you shouldn't change that line just by inflation alone. The big problem that I see, and I want to know what you guys think about this too, is that one of the things that Prop 47 did that's way worse from the standpoint of a prosecutor, we used to take somebody who'd go into Target and steal, and then go into Walmart and steal, and it's a misdemeanor, you charge them with petty theft, okay? Probation, a couple days in jail. They come back again, you charge them with petty theft. But on that second one, that was potentially a felony. And I see Steve nodding his head, because that's petty with a prior felony. Now, in my career, it's LA County, it's always been fairly liberal, but you'd go time after time, probation, they'd always screw it up. But eventually, you could take that guy and go, no, we're gonna put you in state prison for 16 months, the lowest thing, and they do that. But they could go to prison, they could. So you had a little bit of a hammer over their head, and it moderated some people's behavior, and it took some of the regular thieves off the street. But that's something, now it's in that proposition, it's law now. John, I'm going to start with you. What can we do about that? And were you aware of that? And is that something that's important to you? Do you see that?
Well, of course it's important. I was just up in Sacramento with contract cities representing many of the cities that are in the 4th District. And one of the things they're trying to change in regards to Prop 47 is that, like, instead of continually being able to steal under 950 over and over and over again, that by the second time at least they finally do something. Honestly, the County Board of Supervisors can do quite a bit, because first of all, we don't have the jail capacity to lock up all the criminals we currently have. What happens now is, because we're at full capacity and because half the inmates are people that should be in mental institutions or hospitals, you have no capacity for new criminals. So when someone gets arrested, they end up have to take other people out. So that's not good. That just leaves all the rest of us exposed. So what we should be doing is, when people commit a crime, we should make sure that there's some type of punishment, not no punishment at all, which is currently happening. And our lawmakers in Sacramento have an opportunity to do something about that. But our current Board of Supervisors, they never fight for that. When Prop 47 was proposed, you never heard them talk against that. You've never heard them say anything about changing Prop 47. They're doing absolutely nothing about building new jails. We have consent decrees right now that they're not addressing. You have juvenile detention centers that are inadequate, and there's not enough of them. And so what the board can be doing is making sure that, number one, they're advocating for our businesses and our citizens to make sure that there's tougher laws, tougher sentencing. They should be fighting against George Gascon right now, but you're not going to hear my opponent say a peep about him. And they're doing nothing about the jails. And we recently just had another incident at the Del Amo Mall where you had not just the Torrance police, but you had the sheriff and a number of the other police departments show up. And it's not just this one incident that occurs. What happens is when it happens, and people like us that are the ones that go and do our shopping there, our business there, we're afraid to go there now. When it happened back in August, for the first time at the Del Amo Mall, I talked to many of the businesses there, and they said it was a month of very little foot traffic because people were afraid to go there. And so this crime is not just something that's appalling to us as people and citizens, but it also hurts our businesses tremendously. And so people that want to be in the Del Amo Mall to do business there are like, I'm not going to renew my lease. I'm getting out of California. And like George had mentioned, we're losing so many great people, but honestly, our supervisors right now, they don't care about that. They don't even understand these things. That's why I keep telling people you have a board of supervisors that they can't fix the problems because they don't even know what the problem is. They don't even understand that. And because of that, you've just got this party politics. They get their marching orders from party politics, and they don't represent us anymore. They don't listen to us anymore. And so we need to get rid of them. And if you have 3 people that have a little bit of sanity on the board of supervisors, we can change all of LA County for the good, finally.
Steve, if you'll excuse me, since John raised an issue, and while it's actually in my mind, before I lose it, I'm going to go to George. Because you talked, one of the issues that you raised, I think a lot of people are interested in this, that we have legislators who pass legislation without knowing what the ultimate economic consequence will be, chasing away taxpayers, chasing away businesses. Now, in the Assembly, and I admit ignorance, I don't follow this closely, but I just heard on the news that one of the Assembly members is proposing legislation of a wealth tax in California of people of over a certain level, not income, but accumulated wealth. Are you familiar with that? What's your position on that?
Well, I've heard the same, and I'm not real familiar with it, but you see, we have a supermajority in Sacramento that the history is tax and spend, tax and spend. That's their philosophy. And we need a balance, as I said earlier. We need people to where they can't get away with this. And because the consequences are not good. It hurts the state. And we have a great state. I mean, we're the 5th largest economy in the world. And people are leaving. And businesses are leaving because of what they're passing down. And I don't know. Did I answer the question?
You did, thank you. And Steve, I didn't want to skip over on either the earlier issue or this, but in particular this, because I know probably most folks heard, I'm sorry, I want to say Pocahontas, Senator Warren referred to a wealth tax of Americans over a certain level of accumulated wealth, not income. So as a congressman, potentially you could be faced with a situation of looking at that now. My understanding is that
My vote is nay.
yeah, okay. Would that even be constitutional to allow that, to tax in that manner?
I mean, as far as the constitutionality, if Congress supports it and if state legislatures pass it, it would become law. I'm adamantly against that. Studies have shown time and time again that there's a balance you have to strike with taxation. That it's too high, you don't receive enough revenue. If it's too low, you can't function for the necessary services. So it's time and time again, I hear of people, they're moving, the good people are leaving the state. Maxine Waters held a town hall in Inglewood last month at the Inglewood High School regarding banks. And one of the things she was chastising Chase, Wells Fargo, Citibank for not opening up branches in the inner city. Never mind that her husband sits on the board of a bank and she's not chastising his bank to come and open branches in her district. Go figure. But one of the reasons why retail establishments, have you seen, are not just not opening businesses, but they're closing their locations in a lot of areas because of public safety. When a employee at a retail store who tries to stop a shoplifter for the third time that week, and if they call the police, the shoplifter does not get arrested, but the employee gets arrested. So we have a state legislature that George is going to fix when he gets in there, that votes for legislation that makes it illegal for an employee to prevent shoplifting. We know we're living in a twilight zone. We need to change that. So again, although at the federal level, I would not be able to directly affect those policies, I can use my influence. I can dangle the carrot of federal funds and say, no, California, you need to change these things. And more so at the federal level, I believe that I have I can use my level of influence and the platform I have to create coalitions that George talked about, to be able to bring in a state assemblyman, a state senator, a county supervisor, and tackle the problem as a team, as opposed to just John at the county level trying to fight the battle himself, or George at the state level. That's what I've seen. And Maxine Waters in this telephone town hall, she had a constituent who said, hey, you know, we love you, but you're not doing your job, you know, this, that, the other. And the constituent was pointing out local issues. And Maxine's answer was, well, you need to, in terms of like the homeless, you need to go to LASA. You need to talk to your county supervisor. You need to talk to your state assembly person, your state senator. Well, you're in a position of influence. You have the relationships with these Democratic state senators and state assembly people. Why aren't you gathering them around, forming some type of think tank with these people and coming up with solutions? That's what's lacking at the federal level. It's not my problem, that's local. But at the federal level, I really do believe that if you can't directly affect it through your voting or bringing or proposing a bill, you should use your position to be able to rally the troops and attack the problem.
Okay, thank you. John, I wanted to bring you in here sort of collaterally because it occurred to me as Steve and George were talking, there wasn't actually, the city of LA passed an ordinance or statute that actually had a special wealth tax on real estate above a certain level. And I think that went in a couple of years ago. And what I'm concerned about is not just whether or not you support something like that, which I suspect you probably don't, but what are the collateral effects? Because I remember a bunch of sales prior to it going into effect and then none afterwards. So that's what I'm looking for. How do you see the effects of that kind of taxation?
Well, no, of course I would never support anything that ludicrous. Here's the thing. Lawmakers always try to outsmart the rest of us by passing, I almost want to say the word chicken-esque, but laws like that, where obviously that didn't work. And so they wanted to, it's kind of that mansion, I think it's the mansion tax, where essentially they add an additional 1% or whatever it is. And so if you're selling your mansion and you know that you're going to have that tax come up, so everyone sold their properties early, and then they basically held on to it, and so very few of those homes have been sold, or what they've been doing is they break them into LLCs, so that it isn't an individual anymore. Here in Rancho Palos Verdes, and I know the LA Times labeled my city a small, wealthy town, we have a lot of successful people in Rancho Palos Verdes, and that's true. A lot of entrepreneurs that have worked their whole lives to live here. And I think it's incredible to be able to represent people like that, because you don't have any monkey business going on with our city council, because you have people that are so smart that understand that. And that's how government works, is when we finally start to listen to the smart people and the people that are crafty, that can know how to get around laws. Like, you don't want to be passing laws like that. I mean, what is your problem there? They want just more money and more pounded flesh? The best way to bring revenues in is to keep taxes lower. Like, for instance, sales tax. If you're going to raise sales tax in LA County to 10.5%, and it's only 8.5% in Orange County, and you're going to go buy a large ticket item like a couch or something, do you think you're going to buy it in Los Angeles County anymore? No. You're going to drive across the border to Orange County, and you're going to buy it there. And so what happens? Now all the people that have LA County businesses get hurt, the amount of sales tax revenues go down, and Orange County's revenues go up. So I know that a lot of people say trickle-down economics is a bad thing, but honestly, the best way to raise government funds is to actually lower taxes, because it promotes more businesses coming into your community, it promotes more commerce occurring. So when governments try to outsmart us with these sort of laws, we're not stupid. People are not, especially if you own a house that's $10 or $15 million. I don't own a house that much. That's an amazing accomplishment, anyone that owns a house like that. You don't end up with a house like that if you're stupid. And so our government needs to know the cause and effect of everything they do, and that's the problem with government now, is that they're just passing things without understanding the effect. One of the things that's hard to be a Republican is that we have to explain these things to people, and it's not as easy as just giving money away. The Democratic Party, all they do is they just give things away. Republican Party, we actually want to have a cost-benefit analysis for everything we do. We want to respect the taxpayer's dollar. We want to respect your hard work. But it's hard to sell that to the masses of people that just hear, oh, they want to take things away. That's actually not true. We want your lives to be way better. The reason I'm a Republican is because I believe that the government should do the absolute minimum, whatever that is, not the maximum. I believe in individual rights, and I think when you pass a tax like that, or any other tax where it's not thought through, I believe it takes away our fundamental freedoms and rights, and I don't believe in that. So thank you.
Thanks, Sean. I hope you can explain that to your fellow supervisors in that mild-mannered delivery, so it doesn't upset them, because they need to learn that, because tax dollars can move, right?
Well, and I would say that on a board of 5 people, and I wouldn't, actually 5 is a lot less than what these gentlemen are going to be dealing with in terms of numbers, but 5 people, you just need 3 votes to do anything on that board. And so one thing I've learned in politics over my 6 years of being a elected official is that you do need to build consensus. It's not just me going in there alone and doing whatever I want. I would love to do that, but actually I'd love to more listen to all of you and understand what you're looking for and help represent you versus me dictating to what to do. But yes, you have to build consensus. And I believe I will build consensus, because the ideas I have are going to be bringing success to LA County, and that'll bring success to them as well. So I think I'll be able to do that. Thank you.
Okay, I'm watching the clock here, and I know we have an interested audience, and we have candidates who have closings to make. We had planned on limiting them to 2 or 3 minutes apiece, but what I'd like to do is to give each of the candidates an opportunity to do their closing first, and then throw it open to questions from the audience, because I've seen a lot of nodding heads, and so I suspect there's some people who have questions to ask. And if we break early, we'll eat the rest of the donuts, okay? So I can do this alphabetically, or I can take volunteers, but George, I see you've got everything laid out in front of you. Why don't you go ahead and give us your opening, or your closing.
Okay. Now, you're going to be timing me, right? So
unless the audience starts snoring, I'm not going to cut you off.
Oh, you're not. Okay. Well, we got one super team right here. So you need to elect us. When I was on the city council in Hermosa, and one reason why we have Proposition 13, and I want to protect it, and this supermajority, they want to constantly erode it. And one of the propositions, and the people did not support it, was the one on, it was measure number 15, a measure that would eliminate Proposition 13 for commercial property. See, they want to do this one step at a time. And now we're being told that they're thinking about bringing it back up again. But when I was on the city council, 5 members, I was the only city council member that supported Proposition 13. I even went to Sacramento and San Francisco when Paul Gann and Howard Jarvis brought this up, this initiative to the voters. And soon as it passed, oh, George, you got what you want, and now we're going to close the doors to the city of Hermosa Beach. Well, you know Hermosa Beach is still there, right? And we came up with the help of the city manager creative ways of saving money, and the city flourishes now. And but some of my Democratic friends say, well, George, this is why the school districts don't have any money. We got to get rid of Prop 13. They have more money now than they've ever had. See, we're also facing not only the philosophy, but then you've got the unions involved in government, you know. And look, you got the lobbyists. It's difficult. And we have the power if we can, you know, get together. And I've addressed a group, and they call themselves SOS. Now, my social media lady said SOS in an email to me, but I didn't understand it. You haven't responded yet. But you know what? This group, these are conservatives. Save our sanity. Look, we just need some common sense, you know, laws, and by bringing people together, like John said, that we have to bring a coalition. We need a balance so they can listen to both sides of an issue, and that's what we can do. And the other is this, you know, local control of zoning. I touched on that. I mean, come on, taking that away and making it pro-development, and their reasoning is, oh, we're short of housing. We need more housing in the state, okay? But come on, not one size fits all. Each city, there are some communities in some parts of the state, yes, they can have more housing. But look at the South Bay here, Los Angeles. I mean, 10 million people in LA County, 3 million people in the city of Los Angeles, all built up. Hermosa Beach especially, the most densely populated city in the South Bay. I mean, you'd have to go up. And, you know, people don't want to go up, but that's what you'd have to do. So we gotta reverse that law, and I will work to do that. Now, as far as energy is concerned, look, I'm for clean water, I'm for a clean environment, but we have to have reasonable, practical solutions and laws. And I think, you know, they've gone overboard with unrealistic, you know, regulations in regards to this. Now, they want everybody, you know, to get out of their gas-powered car and buy an electric car. I mean, come on. You know, in 2035, then they're going to move it to 2045, to 2055, right? We don't even have currently, as Steve said, you know, because of our energy policies at the federal level, we don't, and the state, we don't have enough energy, even if everybody just went to electric cars. So I know it's a touchy issue, but I certainly would like to have a good discussion on expanding nuclear power, because it's clean. Europe, that's what they use. You know, everything has a risk, but it's so small. And then you've got this high-speed rail, right? That's not going to anywhere, and just spending cost overruns and all this. We need to look at that. Maybe what we should do is stop that and use that money to lower taxes, to build more water, supply for us. Things like that. And I'll tell you, see, I don't know if you recall, I used to go to Manhattan, El Segundo, Redondo, when the taxing system at that time, every agency, cities, school districts, the county, they would just increase the tax rate because we need more money. And I used to go to these cities and seniors were crying. We can't live in our homes because our property taxes are too high. And this is why we had Prop 13 come in the picture. We got to protect that. Like I said earlier, tax and spend. That when we would have our budget meetings in the city of Hermosa Beach and the different departments, requesting more benefits, higher salary, and it's easy to say, okay, we'll do it. But I always said, what increases we make is based on our ability to pay. Not, they would have staff go and look at what our neighboring cities would pay, their employees. But the neighboring cities, their tax bases are different. Some of them have more ability to pay. So, what I need you to help me. I need to, set up coffees in your, in your homes, invite me. I have my donation envelopes on that table. As you know, it takes money to run a campaign successfully. Share with your friends. You have Democratic friends. Share, what the people in our district voted on these propositions. And together, we can win. We can, I had a government committee meeting in the Torrance Chamber of Commerce last election cycle, and Mr. Muratschi was there with me. And when I closed my remarks, I said to everybody, and I said to Al, I said, Mr. Muratschi, you've been there a long time. It's time for you. Your family calls me, calls me and says, look, we need you more at home. It's time for your retirement. So, anyway, thank you for the opportunity. Janice Webb, our chairwoman, Assembly District 66, you put this all together, correct?
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity of giving all of us, and thank you for your support and help. Yes, sir. Oh.
Yeah, I do have a question.
Well, we're going to open it up in just a minute. I want to give each of the candidates.
Oh, okay.
Because we've kind of expanded the closing thing. It was supposed to be 2, then became 3, then 5.
Well, I was at least 5, wasn't I?
You were, but we were fascinated by it.
Says he's on my soapbox.
As you should. See, we'd like to get your closing, and if you could think of that 3 to 5 minute range.
I'm very quick. We pretty much know we agree on a lot of the issues here and what types of common sense solutions need to take place. So I won't delve into that any further. But the number one thing I hear from everyone, and usually the majority is from Republican conservative voters, how are you going to beat Maxine? What are you going to do? We know that your policies are better. We understand that the constituents in her district are fed up. But how are you going to beat that machine? Well, I don't believe that the Republican Party has defined itself properly. It's allowed the mainstream media to define who we are. It's allowed the mainstream media to tell lies and define us as I heard throughout my life, the party of old rich white men. But if you've been to an LA GOP meeting, you will see that nothing could be further from the truth. And we have a Central Committee chair who is not an old rich white man.
I'm a young rich.
That's right. Then she identifies, exactly. And I, as much as I hate it and don't believe in it, it's time to play identity politics. So in a district that is 44% registered Latino, 34% registered African American, and 9% registered Asian, myself being half black and a quarter Mexican and a quarter Filipino, I am going to promote that. Secondly, in a district that is very prone to gang violence, I'm going to promote the fact that I am the son of 2 former gang members. And also in a district that has a large immigrant base, I'm going to promote the fact that my grandfather immigrated here in 1933 during the Great Depression from the Philippines. And I'm going to tell my story. And as I've been telling this story, especially to young black and brown, as I was explaining to someone the other night, and this is not to toot my own horn, but I'm like the Pied Piper when it comes to young black and brown men. They listen to me, they identify with me, and what I have to say resonates with them. So it's gonna take me getting my message out there to the constituents in this district. And as I gave you the demographics, that's 87% of the registered voters are non-white. And I'm going to take advantage of the family, the parents that I was born into, and the experiences that I've had, and I'm going to continue to relate to them. And the more support I can get from people like yourself in terms of volunteers, getting out there making phone calls, anyone that likes to go out and knock on doors, which is my favorite thing to do. I love knocking on doors and just being able to talk to people about where's their pain, what's hurting them, and being able to offer up common sense solutions. I really enjoy that, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. Farmers markets, standing out in front of the Targets and the Walmarts in the community, and I will be holding several other events that in the community that will partner with nonprofits that provide various services to that community, and get out there and just shake hands and kiss babies. But if I can get financial support as well, that will help to pay for the most important thing, which is to provide food and beverages for my volunteers who will get out there and knock, who will make phone calls, and who will man a booth at a farmer's market or a community event. And that's where I really need the help, is the financial support to pay for the volunteers.
Thank you. John, I'm going to ask you to close it out, and please give us some hope as to how you can end the Han dynasty.
So once again, John Cruikshank, I'm running for Los Angeles County Supervisor in the 4th District, but I'm actually running to represent all of Los Angeles County. Certainly there's a lot of hope for all of us, and I believe that our issues are nonpartisan. I believe that partisanship has created a huge mess here in this country, and I want to be in office representing every person that lives in Los Angeles County. Unfortunately, we have 5 supervisors right now that are not able to solve our big problems, and we have people leaving our county left and right, and the only reason that anyone would leave Los Angeles County is because of the actions of our politicians. They're no longer representing us, and they're not solving what I call the core 4 issues. That's homelessness, public safety, economic empowerment, and our infrastructure. These 4 things need to be focused on immediately when I get into office. The very first thing I'll do, though, when I'm nominated and elected in November, is I'm going to take the time to go meet with my colleagues and make sure that they know who I am and I know who they are, because the only way we're going to get anything done is to make sure that we all see eye to eye on listening to each other and understanding what's important to them, and they understand what's important to me. And what's important to me are the taxpayers of Los Angeles County. The reason that I have been on the radio on KBC AM 790 for so many months, I have my own radio shows Sunday mornings at 8 a.m., This is the way in which I've effectively been able to get my messaging out to the entire county, because people take that messaging and they send it out through social media. In the old days, you'd be able to knock on doors. When I ran for city council here in Rancho Palos Verdes, I knocked on a lot of doors. Of course, I didn't knock on all, but I had my signs up everywhere, and I came in first place out of 6 people. And the reason I did that is because I was honest with people, and I answered questions, and I listened to their concerns, and I didn't use partisan politics then either. And that's what I love about this race as supervisor. It is a non-partisan race. So anyone that's a Democrat, no party preference, American Independent, doesn't matter, Libertarian, Republican, all of those voters can vote for me. Unfortunately, the county supervisor ballot designation is well down, several pages down on your ballot. And so a lot of people, they'll vote for the presidential candidate, but they'll forget to go down ballot and make sure they vote for a supervisor. But as we've talked about today, the Board of Supervisors have well more influence over all of our lives than the president does. Unless the president hits a button to send off nuclear weapons, trust me, the supervisors have much more influence over your day-to-day lives. So it's imperative that people actually vote in this election and vote for me. When you get to the ballot designation under County Board of Supervisors District 4, I will actually be the #1 name, and you'll have the incumbent and the former sheriff. The former sheriff has actually been a pretty good gentleman. He is a Democrat, though. He's a Democrat that believes in open borders and not working with ICE. Of course, the other opponent I have is a long-term incumbent, and she's done absolutely nothing. In fact, she's made things worse. They continue to spend more money and make things worse. That sounds like a failure to me. And so why you continue to vote for that person, I don't understand. But when people don't pay attention like this great audience here has done this morning and listen to all the things we've been talking about, unless you're paying attention, you're just going to vote for the same old, same old. And if you keep doing that, that's his definition of insanity. We've asked the incumbent to participate in some of the upcoming candidate forums. She has refused that. Our current president did the same thing when he ran for election. That's not right or fair to the voters of Los Angeles County. She can believe that she's popular. She can hand out checks that are about the size of her arm width and smile and look like she's doing something. But when she hands out those big checks, remember, she never gives the taxpayers of Los Angeles County any credit for that. Remember when you see her logos at all of these street fairs and farmers markets, look at the logo. You'll see a tiny little thing that shows our great seal of the County of LA, and you'll see a huge name, Janice Hahn. That's not who you want representing you anymore. She doesn't represent you. She represents her. She cares more about the income than she does about the outcome. And we need to make a change, and we can. And honestly, I've been speaking to many different audiences, and I don't care what party they're in. I really don't. What I care about is them. I care about listening to their concerns. And people hear the messaging, and people are ready for a change. They always talk about the proverbial pendulum swinging back, and for God's sakes, we've got to do it now. We've lost 1 million California residents over the last 3 years. And trust me, those other states, they want us to stop too. They're probably a little tired of Californians leaving. So let's make our lives better. Let's start to make a change. You've got to realize, everyone has to realize, that it's our current crop of politicians that only care for their party and themselves, and they don't care for all the rest of us. They only listen to half of us, and that's not right. I'm going to get into office, I'm going to listen to 100% of you. Any of you that are fortunate enough to live in Rancho Palos Verdes know that if there's a problem here in Rancho Palos Verdes and you contact our government, any of us, we take care of problems quickly for you. Because it's imperative that we listen to you and understand that you have certain needs and desires, and they need to be taken care of by the tax dollars that you put in to support us. So once again, as was said, if you can support us, that would be fantastic. And for me, obviously, financial is great. But more important to me is sharing with your friends my website, johncruikshank.us. Tell 10 friends today you heard me talk, you like what I said, you should check out what he's saying. You don't even have to say you support me. But the more people that know about my candidacy and know that there's an alternative to what we currently have, the better. So please, vote for John Cruikshank. Thank you for your support. My website is johncruikshank.us. And thank you all for being here.
Thank you, John. Okay, we've heard from 3 excellent candidates. I hope you all support them. We have about 5 minutes left. Janice, who's put all the time and effort and labor into putting this together, has a microphone. So hopefully you've got a few good questions from anyone except any deputy district attorneys in the audience. Okay? So does anyone have?
We have at least 2 right here.
Good, let's have some
I'll
questions.
try to make it as brief as possible. Context to the question, this morning I was opening up my social media and happened to see a panel discussion and the state officials, they were going back and forth. Anyway, it was in Texas, and so it was a black woman that was going off on she's Democrat, and of course she was going off on Republicans. One of the things she stated was that, look at my party, we're diverse. Look at your party, you have tight restrictions. So everything that was stated was excellent, and my question I'm getting ready to say may not be the top priority, top things of priority, but you mentioned something, Steve, about you using your experience and who you are to bring influence. To all 3 of you, what steps are you willing to take to bring people like Steve or people like myself or people of different ethnicities who hold the same values as we? Because this right there, even though it may not solve the issues that need to be solved, a lot of people are unfortunately media mesmerized. They go about what they see, not necessarily about what they hear. They see first and then they hear second. So what steps are 3 of you willing to take to bring more diverse people of diverse ethnicities and backgrounds that can pull the attention of some of these individuals who are on the other side, say, oh, wait a minute, well, they do have Latinos, blacks, Asians in there, and women, and different people who believe what we believe. What steps are you guys willing to take to add that to your parties?
John, let's start with you.
Great. Okay, well, I'm going to start with my business. So I've run an engineering company since 1996. I hire the best people that I can hire. Right now, honestly, I'm one of very few white people in my own company, but I don't really care about that. I believe that the skin color and our gender and us looking at people based on that is destroying us. I do not believe in tribalism. I do not believe in quotas. I think that all of this is just dividing. It's a divide and conquer mechanism for different political parties, certainly the Democratic Party. So for me, I always believe that we should attract and hire and include the people that are willing to take the steps to be the best that they can be. I would never hire someone based on their gender or their race. I think that all of that is 100% wrong. It's demeaning. And honestly, I see, so in my business of engineering, the federal government still uses quotas to hire and contract with companies based on ownership. I think that's crazy, and it actually is pretty demeaning, because if you're a minority owner of a business and you one day try to sell that business and you're only getting work because you're a minority, you can't sell the business to anyone. It's worth nothing. So you actually put someone in a way worse position. You might make that person wealthy, but you're hurting everything else. And so honestly, I do not believe in quotas. I believe in hiring the best people. I don't want to see people's skin color or gender. To me, that doesn't matter at all.
And I'm sorry, I want to clarify my question. I'm talking about people who are qualified, not just because they're of a particular ethnicity.
Okay, thank you. And so to add to that,
Excuse me, John, just Janice has to remind you, these are 1-minute responses.
1 minute.
I'm not
Sorry.
holding anyone to that.
No, can I quickly respond?
That's on me.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no. I'll talk to anyone. And I believe that a lot of people say to me, well, you should have a Hispanic face, go talk to Hispanic people. And I say, that is demeaning. I'll talk to anyone. I can't help the way I look. I was born this way. So to me, I could wear a mask or try to look different for you, but this is how I look. All my warts and everything. And so either the messaging I says works for the people that are out there listening or it doesn't, but I'm never going to pander to people.
Steve, you've made a good case already. But go ahead.
Well, actually, just to directly answer your question, we're already doing it. If you look at the Los Angeles County Republican Party, almost 1 million registered voters. We're one of the largest, as a county, we're the largest party. Our vice